Hello, everybody. I am live with Alex Pina, who just came off of, well, 2 weekends ago now. So not just, but anyway, he went 4-1 with our beloved Deathwatch at a local GT with some of the hardest hitters from the Pacific Northwest, even up into Canada. I know because Midland was there. Spoiler alert, you fought him. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk 40K. You know, it's my second favorite thing after playing 40K, so it works out.
There you go.
And yeah, it was crazy. When they were doing the announcements for the first round, they asked if anyone, like, if this is your first GT, raise your hand. And no, man, everyone was a vet. Everyone knew what was up. And it's cool to see that, you know.
How many players?
40. Yeah,
Okay.
it was at Guardian Games, and it would have been more, but they didn't have the space for it. There was like 10 people on the wait list. It was
Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, very much like get in before they run out.
Yeah, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but there's a shopping center in the area that's been it's gone on some hard days. So some of our GTs have been like in a mall across the hallway where like one was an old like Victoria's Secret clearly from like what's in the bathroom, and then the other one's like an old J. Crew or something. Pretty funny, but
Yeah,
yeah, a lot more space at a place like that. But hey, man,
yeah,
40 people. That's real good. That's 20 tables, all vets. It sounds like so
nope. Yeah,
tough
everyone had a
competition.
team somewhere.
Rad. That's awesome.
Uh,
All right, man. Well, I'll start with how I ask every new guest on my show. Like, what got you into 40K?
sure, man. Well, I was always kind of a game store rat. In high school, I played a little bit of 40K in fifth ed. Had like a start collecting box, and mostly into like D&D. And then the game I really took was War Machine back in like 2013, 2014. That was my jam. Went to school, didn't really want to bring any of my stuff, focus on my studies. Got into Magic anyway, because like my first day, my future friends were like, "Hey, we play Magic." I'm like, "That's cool." And got really into that. The back in the day when there was a lot of like Pro Tour stuff, PPTQ, that competitive itch really, was what I was going after. And then I moved up here in Washington in 2019, and I was talking to a game store owner, and I was like, 40K looks cool. I just don't think I can get into it right now. And they were like, just earlier today, someone gave a Space Marine army up, and they said to give it to a good home. So they just gave me like so many Space Marines, and that kind of ironically, like none of them are in this army or Death Watch.
I know,
I
but
was
it's
like, these
just
are
like,
cool, but like Death Guard is cool or whatever. So that got me started, and ever since then, it was like I tell them it's like, man, that game store owner has probably fleeced hundreds of dollars out of me.
yeah, dude.
But
He was like first one's free. By the way, it's a duffel bag full. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's
yeah, unpainted Space Marines, buddy, go crazy.
yeah, wild, man.
Yeah.
Any estimate on how many points that is? I know that's like
Dude,
crazy to try to do the math
it
on
was like
42 editions.
2300, 2400.
Holy
It had
crap!
like
Okay,
it was pretty good. Yeah, it was
yeah,
it was an army.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So then you completed your studies and you just got right into it, huh? You're just like,
Yeah,
fine.
basically I was like, well, I'm not really it's I just moved to Olympia, I was looking for new friends, and the 40K community is a great way to do that. It's a great way to meet cool people. So
Yeah, cool, man. Well, you want to get into your list then? Yeah,
yeah, you recently had Mark Hertel on the show. Shout out
yeah.
to him. It is a
Shout
very,
out to
very
him.
close list to him.
It's
I
the
had been
first thing I
experimenting with
noticed too.
yeah, 95% the same. Um, I'd been experimenting with Bike Chaplain for the Thief. I'd been experimenting with three bricks, like two Indomitor, one Talent Striker, stuff like that. And I just kept finding that people could just successfully push me into my DZ, and then I would just like be super behind, or they'd charge the Bike Thief. So when I saw that he was doing well, I was like, I'm just going to try that. I actually tested 0 times. I was like, I'll just take that list. The only
Wow.
change I did have is I cut naked veterans for infiltrators, and then everything else is a 1-to-1, which I thought was a good idea. Um, as you guys Deathwatch players know, he's like a fuck it, we ball kind of guy.
Yeah.
I'm like that with lowercase b, where it's like, no, I need to score points. Um, and there's a lot of things in the meta
Wait,
that will just like attack your home screen.
is it is it lowercase b or is it b with a like or ball with a question mark at the end? Like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
ball?
I think yeah.
Like a
Do we
little?
ball this turn? Yeah.
Yeah. No, like I reached out to you I think the day of, and I was like, I love your list, man. It's exactly like Mark's. Like just you dropped like vets for infiltrators, and then I was thinking back to my interview with him, and one of the questions I asked, and I think like multiple people watching asked, was like, well, what do you like? How do you deal with screens? And he's like, fuck it, they can have it. Effectively, that's
Yeah,
not what he really
yeah,
said, but like he's basically like, I'm not worried about it. Like I got 2 rhinos back there, like they can screen. Like what?
exactly. And I don't got that dog in me. Like I need
Yeah,
someone I can just pay 100 points and score my primary.
yeah. I agree with you, but then again, we didn't win LVO, did we?
Exactly. No, yeah. I'm merely a disciple of his teachings, you know.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Shout out to Mark.
So let's go through. Lots of folks listen to this like a podcast, like if
Yep.
they're driving and stuff. So let's go through the list anyway, just to give a little refresher. So take it away.
Yeah, sure. So character wise, I'm playing Space Marines, so of course I have a combat lieutenant. Guy is amazing. He's cracked. You start your list with him. Then we've got a Judicar with Thief of Secrets, who gives you +1 strength, AP, and damage, and then +2 if you kill at the end of a fight phase if you kill a model, which is kind of fun. Um, Judicar is a cool tech piece just against like melee pressure, which comes up that you can kind of just park him on a point and be okay. Watchmaster, who is 2-up save, very fun. He gives your unit Calgar, so like fall back, advance, shoot, and charge. And he has a free strat, which is different from the captain strat, which is very fun because we don't really have a lot of extra CP generation. And then talking about captains, I have a Gravis captain who is holding on to the tome. As you Deathwatch players know, and maybe not everyone, you can just double oath for free. You don't have to do the Gilliman jump through hoops. You just say, I'm oathing these 2 things. And I believe that was it. It's 4
Yep, that's
characters.
for the characters. Yeah, yeah, you
Yeah,
got it.
battle line. I've got a 10-man vet squad and a 5-man vet squad. Kind of the consensus with the vet squads is the 2 frag cannon, 2 Infernus combi bolter, 4 thunder hammers, and then guy with shield and guy with xenophase and shield. And the 5-man is half of that. So definitely have thoughts on the loadout for that, but we can get to that later. And then I've got a Talon Strike kill team with assault bolters, 3 plasma pistols, and 2 heavy bolt pistols, and power
Ah,
fist.
okay.
Yeah, good
Sorry,
stuff. And then
I'm trying to follow along with you on the stream, but yeah,
sorry.
don't
Yeah,
worry about it, dude. Just
cool. Yeah, I'm
I
I'm like
totally
literally
messed you
looking
up
at my
now.
army right now. Yeah.
That's all good.
Um,
Oh, I see.
2
Like you're
Terminator
looking
squads.
like you are
Yeah.
looking at the units. Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
Oh yeah. What's in this pile of models? 2 Terminator squads. Love my Terminator squads. 3 cyclone
So
missile
good,
launchers.
so good.
3, storm bolters, and then Thunderhammer storm shield guys. That was also a slight deviation from Hertel's list, where he had
Ah, I
5.
see. Yeah.
I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but the extra wounds are really nice into the menagerie of damage they're shooting out there.
Marnie wants to see your army.
Oh sure. Sure.
Let me switch scenes here too, so you can get a
This
better
was
shot.
this was definitely a labor of love. They are not 100% Talon strikes. Hello. You can kind of hardly see them. I can post pictures later if you want.
Yeah, sure. If you throw them in like an image of your gallery, I can stick them in the description
Nice, I will.
or something,
And
or a
then
photo
the
bucket or
vets
whatever the
were
kids are using these days.
yeah. And then shout out. There you go. Bada bing.
Hey.
Yeah. Shout out to Zach for printing me those wood cutting those. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
Zach,
Giving to me at the tournament.
good friend of the pod.
Yeah.
He's the orc player that's on like several of my streams. For those of you who are wondering who we're talking about, he has a laser cutter, and so he like cuts a lot of like little tools for folks, like measuring devices or like deployment markers, or straight up he's got like terrain available. Like
Yeah, definitely. I'll
Yeah.
post like it'll sit right there. I can post pictures.
Sure.
I'm definitely of the bad habit of like, okay, it's 3 days before a tournament. We got to get painting. And Deathwatch are really cool because silver, arm, cool shoulder pad, and you're like 60% of the way there. So
Yeah. So I'm gonna brag for
please.
a moment. So when my daughter was born, I was on paternity leave. I can't play 40K, but I can paint because the baby was sleeping like 19 hours of every day. So I decided I was gonna repaint my entire Grey Knight army basically.
Oh, nice.
So I know we have like very different cameras
Oh,
here,
sick, dude. Yeah, that's
but
awesome.
like
The candles are a nice touch.
I went nuts. I have 10,000 points of Grey Knights, so I didn't make it anywhere near through that many, but I don't know
Yeah,
if it'll ever focus. Come on, focus. There we go.
I feel you. I come from Sisters, and
Yeah.
there's way too many models in that army. So Deathwatch is cool because it's just like 50 dudes, and dudes are better to paint for me than like rhinos. I hate painting rhinos. Hate painting most vehicles, so it's really nice to just be like, okay, time for an arm and a power sword.
Yeah, I actually, so I had Grey Knights and I had Deathwatch, and so I'm like, okay, I gotta buy Sisters, and that way I have like all three Ordos, right? I got the box that came with Drukhari back in ninth. My
Oh
buddy,
yeah, yeah.
my buddy bought the Drukhari parts. I started putting those together, painting those tiny little legs and those tiny little arms. I'm like, no, I can't. I gave them away to a game store actually because I'm like, I can't. This is like, I'm not having fun painting these at all. I'm gonna do like 3 color minimum, base these like ass, and then probably never play them because I like pretty models.
Yeah, some people really like doing that. I see it as like a form of self-harm. If you're like really interested, you can like zoom in up here and see just a menagerie of like silver painted ladies, and it's like, okay, they've got a coat, they've got silver paint, and they're ready to go.
Yeah, they got 3 colors. We're good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we checked the box.
Yeah,
I've actually repainted them like twice because every time I have like a couple months between tournaments, I'm like, this is it. I'm gonna paint them nice, and then I have the collective amnesia where it's like, holy fuck, I never want to paint another Seraphim again. And then I'm like, okay, 3 colors again.
nice. Ah,
Oh,
all right.
sorry, back to
Anyway,
the list.
oh, Steve Trimble's in chat. What's up, Steve?
Yeah, it's one of the boys.
Yeah. All right. So I'm sorry. Totally went off on a tangent. That's what you get from the professionalism here at NoobHammer. I'm not even drinking anything other than water, but we're definitely staying nice and professional here. So I think the only thing we haven't really gone over is your... Oh, wait, no. We were talking about the Terminator squads and the Storm Shields. So you said the Storm Shields came in handy?
They're good, yeah. If ever you had a Tankbusters or Forge Fiends or any number of damage 3 melee shooting are coming at you, you basically have 7 Terminators in the unit. It's extremely annoying against damage 2. It does not matter. But if they throw a grenade at you first, you can kind of get really creative with it. I found that with like Terminators, they are a shooting unit that can sometimes kill Space Marines. I don't think you can ever be like they are a melee unit. They're just not enough attacks.
Yeah.
Not enough. They don't really do it that well. But there are a lot of times I will just chunk them for a 9-inch charge turn 1 and just go for broke, and they're good at that. Like killing trash, they love that. But
yeah. I mean, it does feel good when you're at least rolling something that's like higher than strength. Like you're not close combat weaponing it up with like an intercessor squad, you know, where you're like, all right, here comes like 12 like strength 4 no AP 1 damage attacks, which are garbage. You know, like at least they can do something. You know.
Yeah, they will make scouts explode. You know. Like,
you would hope so. Yeah, and then we got the Indom team is the next on the list.
That's exactly like Hertel's. Steve, he's in the chat. He's very much in the Bolter Gauntlet. I'm very much a Flamer Gauntlet.
Okay.
Just because like, +1 AP, +6-inch range, mixed with ignore cover, so good.
Yeah.
+1 AP with AP 0 basically doesn't matter half the time because they're gonna get cover anyway. But strength 6 Flamers, twin linked in AP 1 is a hell of a drug.
Hell of a drug. Yeah, I was actually gonna ask you if you ran the Flamers just because Mark did, or if you had experimented with. I guess you did say that you had never. Well, you obviously run other Indom teams, just not this.
Yeah. Yeah. I've played maybe about a dozen games, maybe a little bit more, like including the GT at this point. And the Indom brick it's a weird thing for me where it's a lot of people swear by it, but for me, like in an unbrick without a thunderstrike, shooting at like a land raider or something like that, and then they AOC, you're like, okay, I've got 3 guns I really want to hit, and then like 7 guns who are just like hoping for fives. And so getting the +1 to win with the thunderstrike is very good, kind of babysitting the Indom team,
Okay,
which is cool.
that's an interesting play style bit that wasn't mentioned in Mark's interview. I mean, even looking at his list, not even talking to him, like I knew what the Thunderstrike was there for. You know, there was only a few multi-meltas in that entire army. So I assume that's how it was working, but it's nice to hear it. And then I guess this is a good segue into the Thunderstrike. So were you like, fuck it, we ball with it? Were you
every
being like
game,
careful with
better or worse, that I was gonna call him a motherfucker. He's a good guy. He just does not do damage. In Deep Strike, having weird OC3 Deep Strike, I would always put one Terminator squad, the Talon Strike, and the Thunder Strike and Deep Strike, just to have kind of like enough hammer units that if someone's getting fresh with me on one half of the board, I can retaliate in a specific way. Or like I like having the option of rapid ingressing that thing and scoring primary in a lot of the matchups where there's like just Angron or something where it's like he's not really doing anything. He's just a big bird that just flies around and those are see it people. So it's nice to have that. I don't really start him on the board. I'm not a fuck it we ball kind of guy with him specifically. Yeah, that's basically it.
If I remember right, Mark said he always started it in Deep Strike as well.
Yeah.
So.
Makes sense to me. 14-inch move is cool, but not faster than Deep Strike.
Yeah, that's true. All right, and then so we've talked about the Talon Strike, right?
Yeah, we did talk. I think we talked about everything
except the Infiltrator squad. But I mean, like, you know,
yeah,
I think we
Infiltrators, another Space Marine classic.
Yeah, I mean, you can stretch out a 12-inch Deep Trident Eye bubble for 12 by what? 12 by 22 or something.
I'm gonna say enough.
12 by 22.
Part.
Yeah, just
if you have the Lone Op Lieutenant and that unit can Deep Strike protect most of your board, most of your DZ. So
yeah. Pretty wild. All right. Well, okay. You want to get into your matchups then?
Sure. Yeah. So
it's funny you mentioned Angron because your first matchup was.
I wonder why.
World Eaters.
Yeah. So that was round 1 of the day. This was a cool tournament because there's a lot of people in the community who I've not had the opportunity to play that I ended up getting to, which was always love playing the fellas, playing the boys. Let me load it up. Yeah, so round 1 was funny. It was oh yeah, I've got this note app. So it was, and this is as an aside for John. He always does something slightly different than GW missions. I can appreciate that because a lot of the times there's a lot of like mission rules that get ignored that aren't even that offensive. Like this one was Scorched Earth, Swift Action, Search and Destroy on layout 3. So when I saw World Eaters, when I was looking through the list, World Eaters was one of the things I was like, this is probably great for me. He cannot really Deep Strike zone. All he has is a bunch of 3 wound Terminator, like with worse invulns and Angron. His list was basically he had a Terminator brick, he had a couple of 8-bound, I think a 6-man Exalted, some regular 3-mans, some Jackals, and Angron. So not a lot to cook with. He also has the Juggerlord in Invo. And guess what? He goes first, which is like, you know, not, I mean, as a Deathwatch player, love going second. Awesome time. Yeah. As the up-down army guy.
Yep. As a Grey Knights player. Oh, yeah. Love going
second. Yeah, you're like, we get to have an actual game. Sweet.
Very few matchups do I want to go first. Unless you deployed like ass and I can just like punish you for it. Yeah.
Just disrespectful. Yeah. Yeah. I do this thing with World Eaters, which is I'm not trying to say it's like a good thing, but like I take the deployment zone, and this is consistent. Excuse me. Since it was on the deployment zone that it was, I took my deployment zone and I shrinked it like 6 inches back into my DZ because I'm playing for the long game. I'm a vertical movement army. I'm not a horizontal movement army. So if I play that game with him, he's going to get the first charge, and that's
Yeah.
going to instantly lose me the game. So I basically put everything in my corner and concede any like middle objective early on. Um, I have a habit of putting the lieutenant with combi weapon 6-inch walk to the objective, just in case he wants to go, full send and put some 8-bound into him and take that away from me. I think the unit only has like 11 or 12 activations, so every single piece is super important. So that's what happens. He gets first turn. He understands that this is like he has to play really carefully, or else I'm gonna kind of collapse in on him. He doesn't full send turn one. He does roll and get, I think, advance in charge. So he has the option, and he's kind of sitting on it a lot. He puts 10 Terminators in the air, which is like I have to respect. But thankfully he kind of
When
he
you say Terminators, do you mean like
yeah, he has,
chosen? Do they have chosen?
no, they have plus
Or
one
is
to
it?
hit if they're understarting, and they have the Sisters Index rule.
Oh,
Where
is it like is it 8-bound? I'm sorry. I realize
oh
you're
no,
calling them Terminators because they have a very similar profile to Terminators. I'm
oh,
just
he
trying
has
to
both
remember the
8-bound and Terminators. He has 10 Terminators, 6
Right.
Exalted 8-bound, 3 and by 3 regular 8-bound. So he's just got a smattering of 3 wound dudes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So no, yeah, for sure. Kind of confusing.
Carry on. Sorry.
World leaders moment. But so he deploys in terrain, and I basically get to site kill. I double oath turn one. I do this a lot, just to kind of use it up, as opposed to kind of like setting the tempo of the game so I can kind of push and close the door as fast as possible. So I get to kill 6 8-bound, just get an angle on them, and then I get to kill some jackals for free. I deploy one of my Terminator squads really aggressively to try and deny primary and to try and like tie up the Juggerlord. I do get the charge off. I don't kill him. He doesn't kill anything. So I'm feeling pretty good. His turn 2, he drops Terminators into a 9-inch charge from the Indomitor brick and moves Angron to kill the Terminators in his natural expansion. Fails the 9-inch charge. His Angron kills like one Terminator, and that wasn't even me. He just failed. He rolled a bunch of ones to wound.
Ooh.
No, he got really greedy with re-rolling his Angron hits, and I'm like, okay. And so he had a catastrophic turn for him. Absolutely, like catastrophic. And then so my turn, basically I pick off all 10 of his Terminators, get to pick off another 3 more 8-bound. And by the end of the game, he's like, okay. By the end of that turn, he's like, we can just talk it out. Because he had basically one turn of staging, one turn of trying to do something, and then just nothing worked out. So it was really, really like failure to launch for the World Leaders player, playing against a bad matchup where we can just kind of pick things up from 36 inches away. And that was basically it. It was, yeah, rough.
So you just knew kind of on the like when he bounced on turn 2, you just kind of knew.
Yeah. Basically, I'm going to close the door as fast as possible. By the end of that turn, he had, I think, 3 8-bound, Angron, and some Jackals.
Wow.
And yeah.
So you, holy, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was wild. Basically, yeah, he put a bunch of dudes on points. I microwaved them off of the point. He kind of staged a little bit, but didn't have enough screening so I could kind of get angles on the things he staged, and then microwaved the other half of his army. And the Thunderstrike was like, I guess I'll shoot at Angron. Randomly did 7 damage to it. So it was just like
Thought you said it.
absolutely disrespecting this World Leaders player. Cool guy. I don't know, I don't think there was any big major mistakes. It's kind of hard to screen everything out. Maybe like putting the Jackals up first and then keeping your backfield kind of more zoned out. He kind of did the opposite, which is like, projects threat better, but at the same time, I can retaliate a little bit easier. So, I don't know. I think it's probably not a great matchup for him anyway.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you don't think like, hey, I'll get lucky on some fight saves, and if he gets stuck into your whole army with his whole army, then he wins, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and I give every World Leader player, like, they're always going to advance in charge. They're always going to have one unit that fights God. So I just completely in my corner, I'm going to play him, just shoot him out, and then go for broke.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
Good. I mean, yeah. So I'd already messaged you by now because I was watching Midland and I was watching you kind of like rooting For you too. So what was the score? Do you
Yeah,
recall?
yeah. So the final score, um, it was sorry, I'm just remembering the conversation we had. 99-63.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was basically by the end of turn 3, he was like, "Let me just see what I can do, boss. I'm tired. I just want to score some points." And I was like, "We can do that."
I'm tired, boss.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
yeah, it's at the end of that turn, it was like, "Well, let's see what we can do to scrap up, like shore that, and then before you get like completely tabled." So that was really good, like you said earlier. Like sometimes round ones are wild. This one was, and he knew like when we were playing, like when we were deploying, he was like, "I did not want to play against this. This does not seem like a good time." And I'm like, "This does not seem like a good time for you. This was like one of my like really excited to play matchups."
Yeah.
So
You're like, you have to come to me, and I have lots of guns, and I can be anywhere I need to be. Yeah.
yep.
That's
Um,
that's wild. All right. So round two is Blood Angels.
yep. And before we go to round two, shout out. I don't know if this is even like tactically correct. I'm addicted to like site to sighting one Terminator unit as far forward as possible to dispatch a threat and
Wow.
charge another threat just to cause a problem and to kind of buy real estate in the midboard while the dudes come up. I know my or Mark is like very much I'm gonna throw the Deathwatch veterans to die early. I'm more so conservative with them and with the rhinos. Um Oh, the Judicar was MVP in that World Leaders
Oh
matchup,
yeah,
by the
of
way.
course.
He just kills whatever, and then when he goes up to 4 damage, the feel no pain stop mattering. But yeah, I don't know if it's right to throw away a Terminator unit, but it feels good, especially when they get the 9-inch charge and they kill something. But anyway, round two was versus BA. It was versus the Grotmist detachment, so the character matter ones. It was I was told later, basically Jack Harpster's list from LVO, and that we had like recreated the quarterfinals.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, you
yeah,
guys did,
pretty
didn't
fun.
you?
Yeah. His name was Cooper. The other guy's name is Ben Blair. Both cool guys. Cooper's
Ben's an
list was
awesome
really
dude.
cool. It had a bunch of conversions from like AOS Stormcast. It was very like salamander coded Blood Angels. Like he is a salamander player just playing with Blood Angels units. And his army looked great. It had, like I said, some shooting elements. Like man, kill teams hate to see a Vindicator. Absolutely, especially if they oath the kill team, because if they get an Overwatch and they pop something, like I've had 9 dudes die on the
Yeah.
Overwatch.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so that was a real threat for me. Lucky for we both wanted to go second, and I did go second. We're sensing a theme here. Going second's pretty fun.
Pretty good for uppy
He
downy. Yeah.
oh yeah, so good. And he has uppy downy stuff too. He has 6 Plasceptors, which are also like miserable to play against with an Indominator brick. I do something. He deploys. He goes first. He kind of stages, kind of like meanders up a little bit. I can tell that he's trying to stage for like attacking my home objective. So I kind of sight to sight the Indominator brick and the Terminator brick, and he like because that Jack Harpster list doesn't have any screening at all. It's just a bunch of bricks of dudes. So I sight to sight the Indominator brick and the Terminator brick, and I can see line of sight into the Vindicator and two of the what's the Blood Angel flying the Golden Boys that they have.
The sanguinary guard.
Yeah, yeah, two of those guys. And I just say we're gonna get this Vindicator and we're gonna get some of this, and then we're gonna, pray. So I split fire and I kill one or two of the Sangard and the kill the Vindicator. It explodes and it deals like 9 mortal wounds to this dude's army. It is not good. And then the Terminators also get to pick up some stuff for free. I just really want to play super aggressive so that he has to retaliate on near his natural expansion so that I can buy real estate in the rest of the board and come down with everything else.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happens. He does draw Call the Horde turn 2. So he's like, I'm calling this Indominator brick. With his last Vindicator, the 6 Plasceptors, shooting and charging, he barely kills the captain. Kind of, I know. Yeah, the Vindicators, he rolled 2 on the number of dice. And I was like, "Are you going to CP re-roll that?" And he was like, "No, I need to save it for other things." And after the game, I was like, "You probably should have," because that's like, I mean, the Vindicator is like the way best damage that your whole
Yeah.
army has. Um, but I get being conservative with CP and using
Wait,
it
were
for other
you
stuff.
rolling saves on the captain first?
No, no.
Okay. Oh,
This
barely
was
kill. Oh, I'm sorry. He kills everything up to the captain, and then he is just enough to kill the unit with like everything. I see. I
Yeah,
got
he
you.
puts his whole army into that, and through shooting and charging and fighting, he kills the captain.
I'm sorry. For some reason in my mind, I thought you like started to take saves on the 4 invul of the captain. And the
Oh,
captain was
yeah,
just like a monster, and then I'm like, wait a minute, you can't do that. That
yeah,
is illegal as fuck.
yes.
Okay.
Secret Deathwatch tech. Just
Yeah.
cheat.
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
cheat. Just roll 6s.
so smart. Yeah. That's a whole aside I could have with Deathwatch. Like with this index coming out and with the LVO stuff, there's a lot of like colorful interpretations of characters and stuff like that. But I'm very much of like the least you like. I'm not anyone to give any allowance to something. If something has any amount of like ambiguity, I'm going to say no, and then if I get that later, that's cool. But not to call anyone out. It's just there's a lot of
I think you mean mission
uncertainty.
tactics, right?
Yeah,
Like the whole
exactly.
mission
Like
tactics
don't
thing,
get any
yeah.
mission tactics. Don't get any like Inquisitor fun stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
We
So
do
yeah,
have a
so
question
it was
real
kind of a
quick.
gamble because I put if I lose the Indominator squad too early, I just have a couple of pieces to play. The Vanguard, the vet squads are like okay, but he can really kill those really fast with Sangard. It works out though because he drops the Plasceptors to deal with them too, and then after that, his whole army is in this corner, and I get to advance and charge with the Judicar, advance and charge with the Watchmaster Brig, charge with the Judicar, kind of like pincer him in this corner while scoring points, and the game's basically over from there.
Wild.
That was another like after
That's
turn 2, he was like, "We can talk it out. I'm gonna see what I can score." But he had
insane.
basically a Sangard brick and like a Vindicator on like 1 wound and some chaff.
That's an insane amount of shooting that the MDOM team absorbed.
Yeah,
Like, they
so
don't have invuls or anything.
I oathed one of the Sangard bricks and the Vindicator. So when he moved the Sangard brick to come charge the unit, I overwatched it and basically one-tapped it. So
Wow.
it felt pretty good.
Flamers
and that's
feel
something I
pretty
like to
good
do
in that
too,
right?
Yeah, coming from playing Morven Vol and Volgons, like I'm pretty greedy with like I'm gonna oath 2 things, kill 1 thing, overwatch the other thing, and then just put a huge dent in it if I don't just pick it up.
Yeah.
And that way I can kind of guarantee like some amount of damage with the unit. Like it's 270 points,
Yeah.
not counting the captain. So and I like ideally you're within 18 inches, so you're within retaliation range anyway. So like I want to be able to at least squeeze as much efficiency out of the unit as possible.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a really cool tip. We do have a question.
Sure.
Sindri's asking, what was the MVP like of the list in general, like weekend long, I guess.
Oh yeah, the MVP. I'm gonna be honest. The humble Rhino. Like rhinos are dudes in cars are awesome. Dudes in cars are good. If there's a competitive 40K list and you have access to dudes in cars, whether it's a Sagittar, it is a Venom, it is a Rhino, it is an Immolator, having that activation lock that keeps your dudes safe is invaluable. And they're the best containers. They're like containers in doing containment, doing area denial. They require like active anti-tank threats to dispatch them. So those guys are huge sleepers. I actually want to play with like 30 or 40 vets and just 4 rhinos and see if I can just rush the field. The real MVP in so much as damage is Terminator squads. Those guys, insane. They can shoot up with Thunderstrike because D6 damage, Strength 9 AP2 or AP3. Or when I test into like GSC, I test into Eldar, it'll come up with the Eldar game. Yeah. 66 Blast is a hell of a drug.
The Blast is, yeah.
And then that's all anti-infantry
if you need it. Yeah. Woo, baby.
So they can go wide and help. They can go tall and help. Those guys are awesome. And they're not dirt cheap, but they're not expensive.
Yeah. That's fantastic, dude. That's amazing. So just cars.
Yeah, tuck your rhinos in at night, you know.
Yeah. There you go. Cool, man. So that's it. Pretty much
that score was 89 to 43. So another like basically he had 1 or 2 turns of scoring. And then we get to
Yeah, I was gonna say, so here we are. I'm like watching you go. I'm watching Midland go. I'm like, all right, this will be great. Like they're both doing well. Then I saw you guys match up against each other. And I'm like, well, I don't like this, because like I wanted you guys to match up at like the last table or something, you know. But I'm like, okay, well, one of you is out of the running, regardless of which way this goes. So like I'm messaging you both during this,
Yeah,
or
you're
like right
puppet
before.
mastering.
Yeah, like right before this, I'm like, I'm wishing you both good luck. It is a game. I want you guys
For
to
sure.
have fun, obviously, but like, yeah. Um.
Yeah.
So
And this was
anyway,
my first time meeting Midland.
yeah. He came down from Canada.
Did he? Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, he's a cool guy. It was definitely the closest game. There are certain people, and this is kind of just a general tournament kind of thing, where like your style of playing 40K and your opponent's style of playing 40K is like extremely copacetic. So you can kind of have a really intellectual game. You can kind of have a really almost like a co-op game where it's like, if I do this,
yeah.
you do that. If you do this, I do that. And Midland is a very much that type of player, which we definitely vibrated well, as the score indicates. It was really weird. It was Burden of Trust with hidden supplies. So it was the only mission where you don't get anything for your home objective. Besides burdening, you can burden and get 2 points, but
Yeah.
it's like not nothing. But and with hidden supplies on tipping point specifically, we had to roll off to see if the objectives were behind terrain pieces or not, because it was on layout one. So like basically whoever
Oh.
wins could pick between putting the objectives on one corner where they're both behind, or the other where there's this kill zone between things. And I win that roll off, and I think to myself, he's the detachment that middle objectives matter. If he gets one for free forever, that's not good. So I say we'll just do a kill zone down the middle, and we'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
Um,
Because
and what's that?
Midland was running Warpbane, which is shooty as hell,
It
and
is
you're also
brutal.
shooty as hell.
Yeah.
So yeah,
The
he
only
was.
difference is I have big bricks of dudes. He has big robots. And his big robots are AP2 ignoring cover 3 damage,
Yeah.
which is terrifying.
Yep.
Um yeah, and so I win that roll off. He plays the game really, really cagey. Because he knows that anything that can get a line of sight is gonna get a line of sight. And we basically play the game of like chicken. I put my combi lieutenant on my natural expansion, and that actually gets me a lot of primary because like he doesn't want to dispatch a whole unit to deal with that guy and then get it killed for free. He
Yep.
does put a strike squad, he scouts them, and Sticky is the one up there. I do harness my Mark Hertel, and I say, let's throw 10 the Watchmaster and 10 vets at these strikes and see
Yeah.
what
That's.
happens. I know I go second again. Surprise. That was very important. We both really were white
Yes.
knuckle gripping the dice.
Yep. That
Sorry, I'll be a
was
little bit more
huge.
succinct with the timing of the game, but
Yeah. That was huge for him too, because like going into
yeah,
your list as my Grey Knights, I would not want to go first either.
no, definitely not. And
Yeah.
he's definitely skewing with 6 Dread Knights,
Yeah.
which is like scary because they're good and they shoot hard, but they're not the T8.
Yeah.
4-pin vulnerable will save you, but being T8 is kind of rough. It means that you're not like immortal. But I basically throw the Rhino and 10 vets up to deny primary and to deny his army ability and say, you have to come back and do this. And it wasn't a good trade, like point value versus point value. He gets to kind of like finagle and dispatch that unit for kind of free. One of the biggest mistakes he makes is because he doesn't want to really interact outside of killing this one thing. So he puts a bunch of stuff down that can see this. He leaves me a perfect rapid ingress spot for 5 Terminators on one of the his hidden supply objectives. So it's hidden supply objective that's within range of shooting a Dread Knight and charging something else. So I'm really happy with that. I get a turn of primary that was pretty high. I kind of get really greedy, to be honest. I'm like, yeah, 5 Terminators can kill one shot a Dread Knight. It's fine. This is gonna happen. So
All
I
depends on
double
those
oak 1 Dread
4-ups,
Knights.
man.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
All depends on
yeah,
those
I
4-ups.
completely get
Yeah.
it. I yeah, it was kind of super greedy, and I end up half killing one. I think I put him to like 5, and then full killing one, the one that charged the Deathwatch vets to kind of make sure the Watchmaster died. And then he does definitely get to win the game of chicken, where he gets to do a lot of favorable shooting. I like put a Rhino on a point, he shoots it. dude, the 5-man vets fall out and the Purgator squad. I roll like he gives me 7 saves and I roll 5 twos. I'm like, there he goes. Like free unit. So
Mm.
we're really scrapping. Like turns 1 and 2 was basically me handing him 1 or 2 units a turn. And then 3 and 4 is just white knuckle grip fighting. I don't kill a Dread Knight besides the first one for like 2 turns. I leave 1 at like 4, 1 at like 3. He has to take battle shock chests on them, which is kind of relevant. Um, I'm trying to he gets to charge his big squad of dudes into my Indomitor brick, and that's like pretty scary for me. I have to kind of dig out from that, and so I'm like split all over the place. Oh, another big thing is he puts 2 or 3 Dread Knights into my Talon Strike kill team for Purge the Foe. No, not Purge the Foe, Call the Horde. And one of them lives on 2. And I'm like, this is awesome. He keeps it. I do
Well, he
another
has
move
to.
with yeah, of course. It's
Yeah,
the
it's
juiciest T-bone in the world.
yeah.
5 points for exploding a Gravis Marine.
Yeah.
Awesome. He does an Overwatch. I moved something to make him really consider Overwatching. I think it was I can't remember. I was the Combi Lieutenant to get on a point to deny primary because I basically shoved the Thunderstrike and a Combi Lieutenant on a point. And I'm like, I'm denying primary for this one guy and denying the score. And he's like, well, I want to shoot the Combi Lieutenant and kill it so I can get 4 points. He doesn't kill it. And then I get to move the Talon Strike into a safer spot, which is very fun for me. He does get my home objective. Not that it matters. It's good for him scoring, but it doesn't matter as much as like other missions. He does okay on Burden. I do okay on Burden. That matchup, the Combi Lieutenant was just sitting like the world is exploding around him, and he's just like burdening on a point for like 4 turns in a row. And I was like, cool, it's gonna be fun. And then yeah, it basically I draw Assassinate and let me go to the end of it. It ends up me drawing Assassinate and standing on points because I got to go second, and then I win by 3.
Yeah.
Like it is a
Wild.
very close game. I get 12 primary turn 2, which is really good. He never gets more than like hold 1 with some burden until the end of the game because he basically steals my home objective. I was like, I'm not gonna kill you. You're gonna win on the killing me game. I'm gonna win on the scoring points game. And I think going second was the only reason I won. If it was the other way, he gets to score the huge thing. That's Pariah Nexus Gaming. That's just kind of how it is.
Yeah. I'm gonna get to Isaac's question here in a moment, but
Sure.
I messaged him 6 p.m. I'm like, oh no, you're going into Midland. And then I messaged him at 8 like 44. I'm like, ooh, close game. And then Alex says, dude, it was so scary. A whole game I thought I was fucked.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I wanted to throw up the whole time because I really want to play aggressively. And if I do that into him, he can shoot me from his DZ and get full rerolls.
Yep.
And it's like I even did it anyway with the kill team with the vet squad. I was like, oh my god, this sucks. I have to he has to come to me.
It's melee too. If you come into hollowed ground, it's melee too. It's all hits.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It's brutal. And he was like, I can like Russian egg doll my way into your DZ with rerolls if you let me. And I was like, that's traumatizing. Like, don't tell me that. Like, I don't know if I can do anything about it, but like, he never does. I think it's one of those things where it's like, I can, but I'm not going to, but I can.
Yeah.
Great opponent. Really enjoyed playing him. Yeah, very, very cerebral players. Just playing each other is a lot of fun for me.
That's awesome. I didn't want to throw you out of your OODA loop by asking you this question, but Isaac's asking, do you see a place for the Fortis kill team? I'm having a hard time justifying it when you can just take a Terminator squad for 20 points less.
Yeah. With list building, every unit has to have kind of a role or multiple roles. The Fortis kill team, OC2 is cool. Being on a tactical marine body sucks when you are 200 points for 10 dudes. Yeah, you don't have any invuln. The Vengor launcher thing is cute. Like anti-infantry 2-up on some indirect is really cute. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think there's a world with the Fortis kill team. That's also 10 Deathwatch veterans, and I'd rather have that almost any day of the week. So yeah, some people really swear by it. I have not found any success with it. There
Have
was the same weekend we played, there was an Australian who did really well with the Spectre skill team. And if I were to spend 200 points on tactical marine bodies, I'd rather try that out first. They're
wow.
really slippery. They have a lot more mobility and utility. The Fortis is just kind of anemic, I think, but that's just my opinion. I mean, some people could have success with it, but that's not something I'm interested in testing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way as Isaac. It's like I'll just take more Terminators.
Yeah,
They're
I
like
mean,
they're more reliable. Like you know, you could rapid ingress them.
yeah,
They're able to punch up into different things. Like, oh, hordes of Termagants. Great. I have an answer to that. Oh, Big Knight. I have an answer to that. Like,
yep.
you
They are
know,
a Swiss Army knife of a unit,
yeah.
and it is awesome.
Where the
Another
Fortis kill
aside with the
team
Terminators.
is.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was saying where the Fortis kill team is.
They're not. They don't do anything well.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got 4 plasma gunshots.
I mean, their bolters are Deathwatch bolters, so they're better, but they're not like
Sure.
they're not stellar, right? Like,
Yeah, no.
yeah.
And their army rule is cute. It's like
I
fine,
don't I
but
don't even remember what the Fortis, the new Fortis. I know the old Fortis one was garbage, but what is the new one? The
I'm
new
pretty sure it's
index
the
one?
Sisters Index one, where you get +1 to hit if you're under starve, and then +1 to wound if you're under half. Let's look it up. I don't
Oh,
want to spread
okay.
misinformation.
So it's the same as Purifiers for Grey Knights.
Hmm.
Okay.
I believe.
Because it used to be like you get +1 to hit if you're firing at a unit
Mhm.
under half strength, and you're like, but
Oh,
why?
that's what it is. No, that's what it is. The
Oh,
unit, the thing you're shooting has to be. It's like reverse Sisters rule. So
oh,
even worse.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
A quick aside with Terminator squads. I was watching the LVO missions when watching Mark play. I don't recall him ever putting a teleport homer down. Those things are awesome. Having access, and maybe he did, and I didn't notice it. But teleport homers are a very, very good use of skill expression. I usually put one kind of threatening my opponent's natural expansion and one defending mine, just in case people try and get fresh. It's a free CP. You can put one down, especially if you site to site and you decide to keep them. It's really cool. Experiment, Deathwatch players at home. Use your teleport homers. Use every tool you have.
I mean,
We don't have that many
so
units, so using them with 100% efficiency is awesome.
so I don't want to put words in Mark's mouth. He's
Please.
obviously a much better player than
Oh
I
yeah.
am. If I remember right, the original Deathwatch index, they didn't have a rapid ingress or a deploy
Oh, teleport
teleport homer
homers.
rule. Pretty sure. I don't remember.
Sure.
But in the original index, I probably didn't care because we had Proteus teams, and that's where my Terminators went, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that case, they also definitely didn't have it. And then at least for me, I play Grey Knights. They don't have it. Even though I can bring an entire army of nothing but Terminators, they don't have like beacons. Um, which kind of doesn't really matter because we just have
Yeah.
uppy
You're
downy.
given
But
the army rule. Yeah.
yeah. But you know, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
or maybe he was playing at such a high level. He's like, I'm gonna put one here, and then they both went okay. You
Yeah.
know what I
That could
mean?
have been it.
Like,
I mean, if someone's like, "Oh, you watch this video, it's right there," that could be it.
yeah.
All I know is that I love them. They're cool little tokens that make me save CP sometimes,
Hmm.
and that's about it. So yeah, so that ends round one. Round day one. I'm feeling great. I always joke that after games like that I need a cigarette and I don't even smoke. It's just like really just like all the neurons are firing. So excited for day two. I look at the other 3-0s and there's a good chance I'm playing some Xenos. Narratively, I love that. You know,
Yeah.
finally my Deathwatch veterans get to use their army rule, stuff like that. And I end up and this he's a good friend of mine, Jeremiah. His list is wild.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
isn't he like Eldar purist too?
yeah. Oh,
And
he's Eldar through and through.
he was
He's really a
killing it
clown
in
guy.
ninth with Quins. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
absolutely smoking the local meta with Quins
yeah.
in ninth.
He's a
Yeah.
top dog for sure. And like I said, he's also 3-0.
Yeah.
And his list is extremely wild. We talked about it. It's funny. It's like that Christmas is tomorrow and you can't open your presents. So like we all know what the new rules are, but he has to play the Index Codex a little bit more.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Ugh, yeah.
So it must have been a bummer. Whereas we're super happy we get to have an army again. So His army is a 2 Farseers, 3 Farseers, 2 that give -1 to wound, a Wraith Knight, Avatar of Cain, Fuegan, and some garbage. It is
What?
very funny. And he had just beaten Nick Olsen Johnson on Grey Knights because Dread Knights shooting T12 -1 to wound is a miserable time. And you know, like it's definitely one of the stat
Yeah,
checkiest
you're
things of all
wounding on
time.
6s all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he was like, I think I'm cooked. I think this is it. Like, I don't know how I don't know how I win. And I'm like, I don't know, like just kind of do what you think is right. I get to go second. This is on Hammer and Anvil, Stalwarts, and Linchpin. So Hammer and Anvil is kind of fun. We're just like very much staring at each other. This was the only game because he did not put anything in reserve. I put my combi lieutenant holding my home objective, and I put some infiltrators because he had a good amount of infiltrators. He had some striking scorpions and stuff like that. I just put infiltrators near my natural objective, so I could just own that, kind of do it for free, and have a free unit over there. I'd rather have like 5 infiltrators holding the line than a combi lieutenant. He's like negative melee pressure, so it works out. He unattaches all of his characters to his units in order to buy more resources to deny
screen you?
zoning. Yeah. Which I thought was a really smart tech. It didn't super matter. He moves up. He goes first. He scores a couple of things. He kind of like accepts that the middle objective is not his thing. This is also layout 8, so both of our natural expansions are just behind a wall. I have to really respect the Wraith Knight shooting because of towering. He can just toe touch the middle objective, and he can just see basically everything in the middle. So my plan was to kill everything that wasn't a Wraith Knight or the Avatar of Cain. So I was like, okay, T3 1-win bodies, awesome.
Yeah,
we can do that all day.
Yeah.
I get to go to turn 1 Terminator squads. I double oath Guardians and a unit of bikes, and I clean the Guardian squad absolutely free with the Terminator unit, and then I bomb a 9-inch charge into a bike squad, and then I clean that bike squad. And I'm like, this is great. I love life. I basically collapse one of his flanks for free. He goes first. He throws the Avatar. He goes his turn 2. He passes all of his saves, his -1 to wound stuff. He puts a thing in the middle. He kind of just like stays. He's like, I just need to score some points. He moves a bike squad to do containment on my side of the board. Previous Terminators that were there include the bikes that overwatched those bikes, killed them. So now he really has nothing on like a quarter of the board, except for like a Death Jester that's kind of like throwing random shots into Terminators. I rapid ingress the second Terminator squad in that corner, and then just really start aggressively attacking his own objective. And I'm like, look, you have to answer these guys.
Just threat overload him.
Absolutely. I want to collapse that flank so I can buy real estate. And basically, kind of a Deathwatch thing. I want to collapse flanks and buy space on the table so I have as many options as possible. Sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you're playing like Tyranids or GSC, and you kind of just have to take space where you can. But ironically, this was an Eldar list that was extremely elite because he had 2 giant unkillable bricks. He basically sends his Wraith Knight to deal with my Terminators. He kills 5 between 2 squads. He splits fires. And I'm like, okay, I can live with that. Yeah. I come down. Indomitor, Thunderstrike, comes down and shoots the Wraith Knight with the leftover Terminators. The Talon Strike and the Watchmaster Vets get within Avatar of Cain range. And they get oathed. And I anti-monster 5 up the Avatar. And I'm like, okay, because he's like too far away from the Farseer. Or I think I killed the Farseer with Terminators. One of those things happened. And it doesn't really matter because anti-monster 5 up is just like, cool, you're -1 to wound, here's 5s.
Yeah.
And between that,
like, I don't
grenades
really
from the Watchmaster and what's that?
Oh, it's just like it's like it's Grey Knights getting Drago in on the Avatar of Cain. It's like, I don't care. I'm anti-demon 2+. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like,
cool,
you can be,
that's great.
Yeah, you're -1 to wound. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm anti-demon 2+. Yeah.
My soul cannot respect an Avatar of Cain because I've played T-Suns for like most of 10th ed, and so I'm like, cool 12 wound model, dude, double doom bolt grenade, go away. Like I cannot respect this model.
Yeah.
And so it takes the talent strike, the Watchmaster grenading and charging, and then like Thunderhammer dev wounds, baby, all the way. You know,
Yeah.
so sick. And then by that turn, I'd killed the Wraith Knight and the Avatar, and he has like one objective left, and he's like, okay, we can call it.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it was
wild.
brutal. The Thunder Strike is such an amazing ability. For 150 points, people should be taking it. Every time I don't take it and I play against like knights or something, I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah. You know, like I'm just flinging like tissue at them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
if you're spending the whole game like wounding on 5s and 6s, it feels real bad. Mostly 6s at that point.
Yeah.
So to that end, like, you know, talking with Mark about his list, he's like, I tried all kinds of stuff, but this is the only list that I could make, you know, really have good synergy and work together really, really well. And then Fred Fortman was in chat for that interview, and you were there too, Alex. So this does pertain to you. I'm not just like jerking off Mark here.
He homie deserves it. Zero to hero.
Yeah, exactly. But like, you know, he was like, no, this is the list. He's like, I can't think of a better list, at least not the way he plays. And Fred was like, yeah, I was taking Mark's list to like, he played it to like 3 or 4 matches. He's like, I kept switching out like one unit and realizing the whole list now no longer works. Right. So that's very fascinating, where it's like the Thunderstrike is there to like do a specific thing. I love the idea of a double indom like list, but I can't see how you make that work. Like the vets are too good for their price, or like, well, they're too good to say no to, really. It's not really price specific, but you know what I mean, right? Yeah. Like, you got to bring the Judiciary, you got to bring the Watchmaster. Like, there's just too, like, you can't shoehorn a Corvus in there for like funsies or something. Like, you know,
you can't even shoehorn the 3rd Terminator squad, and it's so good, but it's like, you know,
So it's just fascinating that it's like this list is it's that good. Like, it's this list.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's not an army that has. It's not a deep codex. It's like, and I'm gonna be completely transparent. I would have run his list 1-to-1 if I had veterans 16 through 20, but I didn't. I'm still working on them, and I couldn't get them hobbied up. So I was like, infiltrators, you're in, and it worked out. I mean, I'm not a big fan of naked vets.
Well, you could have borrowed mine.
Something. Wait,
mine are all magnetized.
Damn.
I know. We didn't even know each other existed until then.
We were ships passing in the night. But, I do want to test more. I am madly in love with putting the thief on a captain, and just going like finest hour bonk.
Yep.
I don't see how it's better than the Judicar, but I want to. It's like, I don't know, maybe like a pet thing of mine, but we'll see.
At the beginning of 10th, I went to the GT and I did that. I had the thief on a captain in one of my in my Indom team, because I was running 2 Proteus and 1 Indom as my kill teams at that time, and he powered up earlier, and there was one point where he punched out a knight, like a big ass knight. Sick. He just was like, "Here we go!" Like, just he just went like, to town. Like, what was it? Strength 10 -4, and he doesn't have an invul in combat and 4 damage. He's just like, wow. Like,
Thunder punch, dude.
Yeah, it was gnarly. But
I will say, going back to round 1, we had basically decided that the game was over. Just to put it in, just to really stick the middle finger to Angron, that Judicar rolled 5 6s on the lethal turn, and I was like, okay, this is disrespectful. You don't have to be doing all this.
Oh yeah.
We didn't even roll it out. It's just super funny. But yeah, those characters, man. The Thief of Secrets is a drug. That
on the Judiciary with the fights first, dude, and like his melee profile is good anyway. So you're just making it better, and then you're giving him fights first in a team of guys with the best Thunderhammers in the game.
Yep.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, why would you say no to that?
Exactly. Do you want? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in what world? I
Yeah.
really do think that we as a collective community might just like explore running as many veterans in cars as possible and then dialing it back from there. But like you said, the marker tell list operates so fluidly and so efficiently that it's hard to kind of do anything else. But I'll see. I don't know. I'm very interested in that kind of play style anyway. So I'll keep you posted.
Uh, Damned, we just went over this a little bit, but he's asking, interested in your reason for dropping the second 5-man vet squad for infiltrators. Did it help or harm your tactics?
Yeah, so my reasoning is I own 15 veterans.
Not 20.
My insight into having played the tournament, 5 veterans is probably a trade-off, right? Like I love to throw my rhinos forward. I don't like keeping my rhinos back. We knew we knew all the missions, and 4 out of 5 of them included keeping your home field safe. So I knew infiltrators are just going to do that job for me pretty easily. So I don't have to
Good
think
point.
about it. So I can expand the middle objective and play the game there. It also just kind of like mentally dis it makes it so your opponent has very little interest in even trying to put anything back there, which is cool because then they're putting things in the midboard in which we can charge them with stuff. So I'm also interested if Bridgehead becomes really bad, putting a librarian with the infiltrators, just so they have loan up and you can't come within 12 inches, just to like super duper make sure things are safe.
Yeah.
Because you can also throw that on your natural expansion, and then you're winning the game versus like Tau, other like long range shooting armies. You basically get to score points for free. But we're gonna hit that crossroads again of like, what do I cut to put a librarian in? Is it worth it? Stuff like that. I'd say it's a lateral shift. You cut that much lethality and utility, and you instead get kind of peace of mind.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of my first questions for Mark is like, why not infiltrators? And he was basically like, I don't care. I have rhinos that and they'll screen out my backfield. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Coming from playing Sisters and T-Suns, like playing an army that has access to no deep strike, like it's insane to me. I'm like, of course you take this unit every single time. It's so good.
Yeah.
But people are like, no, I don't need it. It's fine actually. It's okay. I'm just shocked. Like staring at my teleport crystal, staring at my seraphim, being like, boy, I wish I could come over there.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
No. Yeah.
But,
Pretty. I mean, yeah. Yeah. Kind of like I said, Grey Knights, right? Like my whole army has
yeah.
it, and then 3 units do it every game or like every turn, right? So
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can't imagine it either. It's like, especially for me, like I'm a scourge of the mid tables, so like for me, it also helps me like fix deployment mistakes. Like straight up, like, oops, should have put him there. Guess I'll move him on like the next turn or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're like, cool. It didn't matter at all.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I do think like the second infiltrator squad might be a little bit much. Like you probably have shit in your deployment zone anyway, but having like a table quarter effectively locked out is so good into most of the matchups.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the only wiggle room in this style of list is like those 100 points.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to do with it? Like,
Yeah.
that's really it, because you have a 5-man squad being led, you have a 10-man squad being led, and then you have a 5-man squad with no leader. So like, you got 100 points to kind of do stuff with. What do you want to do with
Yeah. It's the least impactful 100 points, I agree. And honestly, I'm so in love with interceptors. Or sorry, intercessors, Space Marine moment.
Yeah. I was like,
As like
huh?
I love sight to sighting them and then just putting them up, and then if primary is bad or if I'm not doing that, I can secret mission, throw them in the backfield at the end of the game, and then just like, okay, there's my battle line. It's fine.
So you want to play Grey Knights?
My twin brother plays Grey Knights, and so I was like, as a brother, I'm like, well, I can't do what you're doing.
Yeah,
that's
that.
not allowed.
Yeah, I feel that.
So I found my own shoots gun drop shoot army. And,
there you go.
It has silver too, which is cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. So you're 4-1 now. Like like you're going for like. Were you top table at this point? I
Yeah,
know
I'm
things got
4-0.
wild at that last round. Like things
It
went
was, yeah.
crazy.
So I knew the guard player got the pair down and beat it was a Kroot hunting pack, beautiful army. So it was either I'm playing guard or I'm playing orcs. I don't really know the guard guy. The orcs player was on my team for Champs Cup. Great guy. I'm like, I want to play him mostly because he's a great opponent and he's a great friend of mine, and it'd be fun to play that out.
And he's
Um,
Xenos.
and he's Xenos, and he's green. And I don't want to play guard because guard has Toroxes and dudes in cars and Lehman Russes that just clean units up. And I played guard. Incredible. Lucky me. Such a lucky boy. And my opponent was he knew what he was doing. He was a funny guy. He was like, I'm just throwing dudes on points and I'm scoring points and it's doing really well for me. And his army, beautiful. His name's Tom. Great guy. He definitely was like, I'd rather be playing chess right now. He would absolutely cream me if this was chess, dude. I'm not good at chess, but he definitely was a guard player through and through. He also was excited for the new codex. He was like, "Don't worry, this Scout Sentinel bullshit is almost over. Like, you don't have to worry about it." Because he had, his
Almost
list was
over.
basically
What a
dudes and
guy.
scars. Dude, it was the Scout Sentinels are. Every time I see a guard list, I'm like, this has 300 too many points. Like, you need to cut something.
Last ride of the Scout Sentinels.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a very fun
Is
game.
is this in? I'm sorry, just so that everybody follows along.
Oh
Is
yeah.
this the 6 Scout Sentinel brick you can bring back once a game with reinforcements with all the
It
las
was
cannons and shit on it?
It was 3. It was a 3-man
Oh,
that
it's only
had las cannons and hunter killers and T7 7 wounds, just chunky.
yeah.
He also had 2 hellhounds, which is like 115 points or something with a 2-up save, 18-inch flamer, AP2, ignore cover, chunky. He had, I think, 2 tank commanders that shoot on death, brutal. He had 2 regular Lehman Russes, and then
Oh
he
god.
had Ursula Creed, some mortars, and some Toroxes with Catachans inside. So this is like definitively like the irony of playing World Leaders round 1 and being like, this is awesome, and then playing this army round 5 and being like, this is not what I want to be playing at all. You cannot pay me to play this army.
Yeah.
Because I'm activated locked out of like, cool, I have to kill a Torox to kill Catachans to score primary. And then you're like, your Lehman Russes are just going to clean my unit anyway.
Mm.
Or I can't get to your Lehman Russes because you've completely flooded the board with idiots. It's just like, dude, there's like 6 ways to Sunday. I will say in hindsight, I think I did say fuck it, we ball exclamation point on maybe the one matchup where that's not what you're supposed to do. Where I'm like, fuck it, eat some Deathwatch vets, and he's like, okay, I shoot 3 Lehman Russes at them and they explode, and I'm like, interesting trade. I kill like, I don't even know if it was worth it. I killed like the Scout Sentinel squad, and he's like, I'm paying TCP and bringing them back. I'm like, negative EV. I also go first. This is the first time the tournament I go first. Wow, interesting foreshadowing on that end. I think if we play a really passive game, the game is really close, and this is kind of what I identified. This is a bad matchup. If I play the passive game, and we're playing take and hold too, so he can just score 15 points at the end of the game for free.
yeah.
So I need to do something. I need to push to some extent. I think the correct thing is to push him out of my natural expansion, as opposed to kind of playing a trading game in his natural expansion. Is what I do. I set up some rhinos to kind of attack. One attacks his natural, one defends mine. Like I said, I get kind of greedy and I throw kind of units away inefficiently, which isn't what you're supposed to be doing as Deathwatch, especially in the guard, because they have like triple the units you do.
Yeah. That's what he can do.
Yeah. I should be playing guard if I want to do that.
There you go.
Yeah,
Or
and
orcs.
that's definitely like me destroying my sister's mentality, where it's like, oh, what is 5 sisters? It's nothing to me. But I'm like, what is this 200-point brick? Oh no, it's gone. Yeah, I think it is pretty cursed for Deathwatch players. Maybe there's like some tech, I don't know. I think both flavors of guard are going to be pretty bad for Deathwatch, just because Bridgehead Brigade has so much shooting and we can only screen so well. Rhinos again are probably going to come in pretty clutch there, but I think we might have to like, I mean, all all of GW 40k players are going to have a hard time into, I think, Guard and Eldar when they come out. There's part of that's just new codex stuff where there's a lot of tricks and stuff, and part of it's just because we're a very elite army already,
Yeah.
and it's hard to predate those things because they're hiding their really good units behind Wave Serpents and Toroxes or Deep Strike,
Yeah.
and so it's going to be really hard to navigate those things. I will say I was kind of exhausted at the end of this.
Yeah, man. Five games in 2
Brutal.
days is already rough. 5 games in 2 days where you're like on the top table for game 5 is.
Yeah, and Deathwatch, not exactly an easy army. It's not exactly throwing dudes on points. So it was good. I basically, like I said, I also had 2 half go turns where I kind of instead of dumping my whole army turn 2, which I think I could have, is probably the move. Because if I give him both kill teams, 2 Terminator squads, and the Thunderstrike, he's taking his pound of flesh, but whatever lives is probably going to help clean up because then you actually get to activate all those units. I was surprised by how much it took shooting wise to kill one of those bricks. It basically required a Hellhound to get within range and shoot the ignore cover flamer, and then at least 2 Lehman Russes. I had not tested guard at all, so I think in hindsight I could play more aggressively in so much as like using the kill teams.
It also super-y duper-y depends on what guns he's running on those.
Yeah,
those Lehman Russes.
That's true.
Like if he's running Vanquisher cannons, you're fine. You're gonna lose 1 model a turn per, like Lehman Russ. If he's running 3 plasmas, if he's running plasma and 2 like plasma like sponsons, you're gonna have a bad time.
Which is, he definitely was. I think it was a mix. He definitely had at least 1, if not 2, of the plasma guys. I think also in hindsight, if you can stay like outside of 24 inches of his range of his guns, then suddenly his shooting efficiency goes way down.
That's a good point.
This was basically an exercise in like throwing things at the dark and figuring out the matchup as we play. And this was definitely he was a very funny opponent. He was like, "What does this unit do?" And I would start reading out like the strength 9 AP2 D6 is like, I don't care about like the lethality, like what does it do? And I'm like, "Oh, it shoots things." And he was like, "Good, okay, cool. That's all I needed to know." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So he definitely has a unique way to play the game, and it's cool because I've been going to tournaments for like a little over 3 years now. There's so many different ways to play 40k from like a processing standpoint. That every time I see a new version of it, it's so wild to me that they can all find success in their own ways. It really is just kind of a forge your own path kind of thing, one of the reasons I love about 40k is you can see 2 people run an army and they're doing it in extremely different ways and they're finding success with it.
Yeah. And then
Bad beats that game. I think the end result was 58-88 because I kind of like bounce off, bounce off, scrap, and then he has bottom turn, floods the board with dudes. And I'm like, okay, GG, dude.
Yeah. Scored his 15 at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, he got his 15. He got all of his secondaries done. Like I said, if we re-rack, it's probably closer just because I understand the matchup a little bit more. But in all honesty, he knew what he was doing and he executed it really well. So
yeah. And you're still playing from behind. Like it's not a matchup. It's not a great matchup for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, that was games 1 through 5 testing that list. So like if I was like a more responsible player, I probably should have thrown it on TTS or something before the tournament. But
especially matchups you think are bad, right? You're like, I'm not really worried about world leaders, but I'm really worried about guard kind of thing.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I think, and maybe I'll be in the minority here. Like I said, I think having to activate lock your big units behind rhinos is going to be a little bit sus. Like if you have to use the Terminator squad to pop a rhino and then put the Town Strike squad inside, you're like okay with that. But if the Terminator squad doesn't kill the rhino and you have to put Talon Strike into killing the rhino and the dudes are outside and like you're like, okay, I think I might just be boned here. Because you basically have 4 queens, like you have 4 big chips that you want to use to kill their other big chips. Or if you have 4 big chips that you can kill 2 smaller units, but tanks and then dudes inside is always going to be a nightmare. Yeah. But that's just 40k though. That's why those units are always really good.
Wow. Well, cool, man. So, like, what are your big takeaways Other than you should have probably practiced at least a few rounds.
Yeah. Big takeaways. Deathwatch is very capable of doing really obscene amounts of damage. It is maybe one of the best shooting lists in the game right now. I think it's being extremely slept on as like a Space Marine option in a world where +1 a wound Space Marines exists. Deathwatch has access to some really unique things. Like people, and myself included, kind of equate Vanguard Space Marines to Deathwatch, but Vanguard Space Marines, I think they still fundamentally do different things and they run different units. Like the Placeptors is kind of in the middle, and like the Centurion brick is one thing, but
Hmm.
Deathwatch has access to some of maybe the best battle line in the game in the veterans. Because like it's hard to find battle line with damage 3 melee, especially with access to full hit rerolls and lethal and sus and dev wounds. Weird. Um, yeah, and I think it's going to be one of those armies where not everyone runs, but the people who run are either going to be really good or kind of narrative players. But I think it'll have a good win rate moving forward. I think it's one of the top contenders.
Yeah, it's kind
I'm
of
interested in changing the loadout of the 5-man vet squad to being only melee. Like one frag cannon and one Infernus heavy bolter are like so whatever.
yeah.
But like the black blades or even like maybe another shield or
I,
something.
I really wish we could double down on one or the other of the
Yeah.
heavy weapon. Like if for no other reason than to speed up rolling.
Yeah.
Right, where it's like, all right,
100%.
now I fire 2 frag cannons. Okay, now I fire 2 flamer shots.
Yeah.
2 heavy
Yeah.
flamer shots at you or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. And honestly, for the longest time, I didn't approach Deathwatch because I was like, oh my god, a Proteus kill team activation is gonna take 40 fucking minutes.
It
Like, here's
takes
my
a yeah,
hammer. Here's my like okay, it
yeah.
sounds miserable.
What I would
But
do is I had dice like set into like specific groups for like each weapon type,
sure. Yeah,
which
that's
is
smart.
awful, honestly. But it
Yeah.
made things
It's
faster,
still
but it's
not
awful. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, especially since you're like, cool, I did 6 damage to a land raider. After all of that, you're like,
Yeah.
awesome, great. Or you like overkill it. And you're like, the meltas at the end did everything. It's like, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Um, but yeah, it's interesting. I like I said, I think Deathwatch veterans are probably one of the sleeper units in that codex. Um, I think also post this tournament, we've seen basically every weekend one Deathwatch player do really well. One or two. And they usually don't have the same build, which is kind of indicative that I think the index has more depth than people are playing.
mhm.
And I think it has kind of a toolbox mentality where there's enough that you can answer some of the meta. I don't know if you can answer all of the meta, but I think it'll be explored more, and I think it'll be a really strong codex, which is exciting for all of us Deathwatch players.
Yeah, so I just pulled up the latest Meta Monday on Warhammer Competitive on Reddit.
Sure.
And there are 2 Deathwatch players that placed that week, and one of them's you,
Okay.
and the other one went 7-1 with Black Spear in Australia. 180 players. Holy moly.
Brutal.
Yeah, that's 3 games or 3 days, man.
Yeah.
I want to look up this guy's list. I'm not gonna do it on stream, but I've heard, or actually, I can do it while I feed you a question. I've heard some
Sure.
folks like looking at Deathwatch like Librarius or something. Have you heard anything about that, or is that
That's
just
really
like Mimi?
no. I am going to be candid. I like I said, I'm an expat from T Sons and from Sisters. So the Librarius Conclave looks really cool. I don't know what these lists people are running are. I have heard like whispers of the warp that that's a really strong way to play the army.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that given enough time, someone somewhere is going to do well with it. I don't see Conclave. I think Conclave is really good, but it has an innate flaw that you still have to run librarians. And that's a lot of points that could be other things for
Yeah.
buffs that maybe are good. Like reroll ones are good, but you're already running veterans that do that half of that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Like it would be really cool if there was a really cool and good Librarius Conclave list. And as a T Sons player, I don't want any Conclave lists because randomly having a 4 feel no pain against my whole army is just like, okay,
Oh,
that's
tell me about it.
yeah.
Those Grey Knights,
Grey
it's the
Knights
same
are-
thing. It's like only my Stormbolters are not, and Flamers are not taking the
Cool.
Feel No Pains. Yeah. All
Yeah,
my melee, everything. It's all psychic.
very
No,
fun. And
nothing
people,
in
yeah,
this
it's like,
edition, like the psychic keyword in this edition is just like a debuff.
yeah,
It does
100%.
nothing good for anybody who
No,
has that keyword.
yeah, I mean, good God, dude. Like every time I've played Grey Knights as T-Suns, I'm like, cool, I'm gonna have to put literally every single model in my army into one of your 10-man bricks to
Yep.
try and kill them. And most of the time you just bounce off, and then you shoot at Magnus and he has a 4 feel no pain, and we're just kind of just like rolling dice at each other.
Yeah. Back
Um
before the Grot Myths, when I was playing Teleport Strike Force, like I would bring a librarian or two, mostly to run them solo to like score stuff, but into T-Sens or the mirror, I was gonna put them in my Terminator bricks and then just stand there like this.
yeah,
Because like, what are you
out in
gonna
the open,
just
dick
with
in the wind, saying, I
just
don't
with
really care.
fingers raised, cool. You are now half as good as you were, literally half as good as you were.
It's funny. Grey Knight players and T-Suns players are somehow mortal enemies, but also we have the same trauma. So we really should come together and be like, psychic armies matter. It's like, we do need something. And T-Suns, I will say, has, I think, maybe one of the better executed army rules, at least in flavor. Obviously, in practice, that's like unbalanceable. But Cabal points and like points in general based off of how many psychers you have,
Yeah.
at least feels kind of flavorful.
I'll definitely I'll go. I want to get to this other Deathwatch list just,
Oh, sure.
but before we do that, in ninth, T-Sun's got their book and it's like Cabal points. It's like, okay, that's actually really like that's pretty cool, right? Like that's a neat way. Like it's really flexible and you like you can tune your list towards it or not if you don't want to use it. And then the Grey Knights one came out. I'm like, I get tides. Like I get to maybe kill myself to switch to a different minor buff. That's why like everybody would just stay in the same tide the whole game.
Yeah.
Except maybe for turn one. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. You're like, I have cover, and then I'm gonna do the other thing and forget.
Yeah, and then I have more damage. Hooray! It's yeah.
Oh, I failed to cast hammerheads again. I guess you.
Yeah, I guess
you win.
Guess I lose 3 models too.
Yeah. I get +1 to deny.
Don't miss the psychic phase, honestly.
Oh, yeah. It's okay. Sad.
Anyway, sorry guys. Everybody's just listening to two nerds bitch now. I'm gonna pull up so this is the 7-in-1 Adelaide list now. I have not looked at this.
Oh wow. Yeah, so, I'm excited to talk to you about it.
Let's see.
It's pretty unique.
So there's Gravis, Captain in Gravis armor with Thief of Secrets, so you know that's going on, and in Dom team. Librarian in Phobos armor, Lieutenant in Phobos armor, that's where the beacon is. A lieutenant with combi weapon, obviously.
Yeah.
Deathwatch vets 5-man, Intercessor squad 5-man, which I'm sure is just there for sticky.
Yeah, sticky, and like I said, you can pick it up, drop it, and do some stuff. But
Assault Intercessors with jump pack, you got 2 of those. Centurion Devastator squad. Okay, see, this is a thing that one of our local Deathwatch players is trying to make worse. I'm not sold on it personally. I mean, it does kill vehicles, but it's very expensive.
It's expensive. Yeah.
Although we get the uppy downy that the Vanguard detachment gets with Ultramarines, so like I can see wanting to use it. In Dom team, looks like he went Bolters. Yeah, he went Bolters and Fragstorm. Another in Dom team, same thing. Bolters and Fragstorm. Infiltrator squad. This is the Spectrus team. Okay, so is he putting both of the Phobos characters in the Spectrus team, you think?
I think if I had to guess, he'd probably be putting the Librarian in the Infiltrator to give it lone op.
Yeah,
and then the Lieutenant for the, I think it's another move after shooting, so he can move it like 12 inches or something. I think it's either that or it's the redeploy. I think that's the Captain. Let me look it up.
Okay. Oh, and then he has a Calidus assassin, just because they're good. Vect is good. Uppy Downy for free is good. Lone op is good.
That, I mean, the Calidus is awesome.
Yeah, I was
Having access to your,
amazed she didn't go up in points
yeah,
when the agent's book came out. I was like, she's gonna go to 150 or something. Nope, stayed at 100.
no. So the librarian and Phobos, yeah. So if I had to guess, I mean, this army is very score focused. You've got JPI that can do early game skirmishing. You've got the Scent Brick as like one of the kind of oath agnostic units you can use as long as they're on a point. Um, two Indomitor Bricks is cool. Neither of them have deep strike, so I wonder if he just like sights to sights them like turn 3 after he does the Scent Brick. Um, but other than those 3 units, his army, like, I don't really respect the Spectre's kill team as like a damage output. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and that unit is actually
Yeah.
cracked. But I mean, it's basically like an infiltrate unit that has the scout keyword or the scout ability where you can pick up and drop. It is also, I think Spectres are OC2 as well. I could be wrong. But they have a bunch of tricks. They're a really slippery unit. I If there was any coverage, I'd love to watch it because it's a very sweet use of points. But I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
I don't know if there is. There might be somebody in chat might know if there was Adelaide coverage, because they came in second, so they were at least on the like in the finals, right?
Yeah, and they lost to Zinch Demons.
Yeah,
Which is, yeah, my, yeah, that I am of the, I've actually played into that detachment a couple of times. I think the move, gang, is to just never use a flex token. They will give you a flex token, you just set it aside. Because the second you start playing that game, they will just have more than you. So let them just get to have 2 rerolls a turn, and that's their army rule.
what does that
Um,
happen? I'm sorry. What are the flux tokens?
oh, sorry. So the Zinch Demon detachment, if I remember correctly, you start with like 3 flux tokens, and you, as the Zinch player, can use it to reroll like an armor save, an advance, or like a hit, some list of things that aren't, you can't charge or anything like that. And then when they use that token, they give it to you as the opponent, and you as the opponent can use it to like reroll certain things as well. But when you use it, you give it back, and so you're playing this back and forth game of this resource.
Oh,
They
so
also
you just
generate
take
a
it
certain
from
amount
them.
every turn. Yeah, it's basically just like extra CP. And so this is just a quick aside. I think you just ignore that army roll. You're like, okay, you get to reroll 2 saves a turn or whatever. That's okay. But that's a quick aside. That army is very wild. It's very weird. I don't know
Yeah,
how long it's going to exist, especially when we have Cult Chaos Space Marines in the spring. So maybe you'll never see it.
yeah, maybe. Especially, yeah, with the baby right now. So
Yeah, exactly.
the Lieutenant and Phobos armor gives shoot and fades. So yeah, so this whole unit can shoot and then can make a normal move as long as they're not in engagement range, obviously. Up to D6. So they have to roll it, which means you're averaging, 3 to 4 inches. But you could also roll a 1 when you really need a 3 or something. So
Yeah. And that's interesting because I think the Spectre's kill team has another version of that with the Marksman bolt rifle as like a war gear option. So I don't know if you can stack that. And I know one of them doesn't let you
yeah, it's
charge with
the
the lieutenant.
it's the Instigator Bolt Carbine. After you shoot, you may make a normal move.
Sweet.
If it does, it cannot charge. But you know, the shoot and fade from the lieutenant does not have the cannot charge
Yeah.
stipulation. So I guess you could pick and choose which one you're
Yeah.
using.
It's
So
sweet.
if you want to shoot and then move like 3 or 4 inches closer to guarantee a charge, but
Yep.
then
Yeah.
what do you like? Spectre's kill team isn't. They're just knives.
It's just dudes. Yeah.
Yeah,
And even the lieutenant is just dudes.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, I've seen that with other Space Marines with Weavers, where you come in, shoot, move D6, and then you have like a pretty reliable charge. And then at least you're making battle shock checks happen and you're minus seeing. With this, I mean, it's cool to have that ability. Obviously, he did that pretty well. It's
yeah,
still almost like a 300-point package or something, like 250 point or something. It's like not cheap to do
yeah.
that.
I should reach out to him or like Denith, because Denith is a through and through Deathwatch player from down under. I had him on the stream a ton during ninth. Denise probably knows this guy and probably knows exactly how he ran this list. So
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear it.
yeah. Oh, actually, Steve Trimble just said, and you can charge after, or at least he said it before I just saw it.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. He was the one who revealed the Reaver tech to me in a game. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, I'm surprised I'm not seeing more of like one Reaver squad, you know, just because they're in certain situations they're pretty cracked and they're pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the testing before LVO, I had a lot of games with like one Incursor squad, one Reaver squad, and one Intercessor squad, just for like utility pieces. And the Reavers are really awesome early game action doers or just like point deniers. I could see like other Space Marine armies just having a lot more success with that too down the line. But I don't know. It's still pretty early on in Space Marine's tenure and finding like a good list. And Deathwatch is even more so because we've only had this new codex for like a month, 2 months at this point. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what people break out.
All right. So Isaac's saying you could find the Adelaide Day 3. Yeah, okay, I found it. He said type in Adelaide 2025. I did that and apparently there was a huge tennis tournament.
Sick.
So I had to like to narrow that down slightly, but here is a this is exactly the game that we're talking about. I'll throw it into chat if will let me actually post. There it is. Okay.
Nice. I'm gonna watch this tonight, probably.
So there's the whole game. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, part of the beauty of 40K is that like it's almost like a collective consciousness exercise.
Yeah.
Where you've got so many games going on around the world at any one point that if someone does something and it's really cool, it's probably caught on camera somewhere and everyone else can kind of explore that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's also just different local metas too, you know, like
yeah, the Australian meta is wild. Every time a list comes from Australia, I'm like, how does that work? Like, how does this list work? You know?
Well, they're on like WTC terrain and like you know, which is way more dense. So like shooting armies are generally disfavored. Like yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, even local within the United States, you know, like you can run into some pretty wild stuff. I mean, gosh, what was it? Oh yeah, I was in a Facebook group and because I went to an RTT, I took my Grey Knights. I came in undefeated, but came in second because there were just enough people anyway. And they're asking me like, how are the purgation squads in Warpaint? And I was like, well, like I thought they did pretty well, but they didn't hit as hard as I was expecting, just because AP1 with cover. And this guy's like, well, why don't you just use like plunging fire? I'm like, well, none of the tournament terrain here has more than one like level, so I can't. Like that's my meta. That's part of my meta. Like the physical terrain at the tournaments in this area only have first floors, so I don't get plunging fire.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like even through like kind of through 10th, there's been this conversation, and I think there's been an explosion of people getting away of player place and into this new GW layout and WTC.
Thank God for that.
Yeah, absolutely disgusting. But there are now 40K dialects where you're like, oh, someone did something, they did amazing in London. And then you're like, okay, so that's UKTC terrain, which is like, as Americans are like, this is Planet Bowling Ball. Or you've got like people like Innis with his Blood Angels list. There's like Desolators are awesome on WTC where you can just throw them up and then
when you're Innis.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, and you're him. You wake up and you're like, here's a list. Here's a
that guy could probably take like toilet paper rolls with no data sheets and still win games, man. That guy's definitely nuts.
And so yeah, you really have to kind of contextualize the list that you see successful. Like this one, I mean, if it's on WTC, it might be successful because he only has 2 Indomitor bricks and the Scent brick. But it is interesting, and I think it's something that's often not really looked at enough from a 40K, from a global 40K standard.
Actually, this looks like GW terrain on the stream.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm sorry, guys.
yeah.
I would show you what I'm talking about, but I didn't set up this view on my OBS, so you'll just see a big black screen if I switch views. But this actually does look like a GW layout.
So maybe
but,
there's some tech there.
Yeah, I am super happy, like, because 9th, 10th. Gosh, I should back up slightly. I've only been playing since the Ascent at 8th. So I have one full edition under my belt, 9th. 9th, very quickly, we all realized we need more terrain. All the terrain packs from Games Workshop were all still like, take that at least 2 ruins. Full stop to make this like worthwhile. The new packs though have been great. I have no problems with the latest GW. Yeah.
Even the really polarizing ones like Layout 7, where it's like we actually made a table that's melee kind of favored. It's not impossible to do well as a shooting list. It's just like you're used to having some amount of gun lines, and now they're just X's in the middle.
Alex, your mic sounds like a robot right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just happened too.
Is it still doing it?
Yeah.
Let me try.
Sorry, man.
No, you're good.
Wait, it's getting... Nope. It's bad again.
Let me try just throwing these headphones on. I was just using my laptop mic.
I'm sure everybody else heard that too, and it's not screechy or anything, but it wasn't great.
That's just my normal voice. Is this better?
In Discord, you're gonna have to switch over to your mic.
Okay, yeah. Let me see.
Oh, it says it sounds fine to them. Weird, because every other sound on my computer is fine.
Hello?
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I'll just roll with it. It's cool, dude. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, everybody's saying it's fine. I don't know.
That's sick. Happy ending.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I will say that I do think that my point still stands that if you see a list, look up where it did well at, and then look at the terrain layouts.
Yeah.
Because it might just not work as well as you think, or there might be a missing puzzle piece in your testing.
I want to record you and play it back right now because it's pretty funny.
I'd love to hear Robot Me. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, what do you like? Where do you think the weaknesses of Deathwatch is? I mean, obviously, like we have, we're elite, so we don't have chaff. Like we kind of, like there's the normal elite army stuff, but like, what are our weaknesses?
I think we have a couple, to be honest. I think, like I said, the one I'm going to keep driving home is we can get activation locked pretty easily. If someone has like multiple transports and units that can threaten us, we're going to have a hard time blowing people off of primary. And conversely, we're going to have a hard time controlling the board. If people can disembark, throw their transports up the field, and we have to come down on our half of the board, shoot the transports just to play the game. Because the Indomitor brick, for as good as it is, moves 5 inches. And the Terminators also move 5 inches. Talon Strike is good because the Talon Strike can come down, shoot something, and then move. And then you still can get up to AP2 or AP1 ignoring cover, which sometimes is good enough because the trade-off is going to be coming back up and having to drop 9 inches somewhere. So I think that's going to be kind of a perennial issue for Deathwatch players because we say we are a multi-phase army, but we really only have like a handful of activations every turn that really matter. And so when you play against something like a bunch of Toroxes or maybe a bunch of Orc trucks like Tactical Brigade, that's going to be hard because they have open top 12, so they can just shoot you from inside the truck. Another one I think is going to be knowing, and this is going to be a user skill, knowing when to full drop. Knowing when to drop turn 1 with 2 things to really close the door early. Knowing when to drop turn 2, or knowing when to drop later or play the trading game or what. Like, for as powerful as it is having access to something that's so utility oriented as an army and has so much damage available, knowing when to connect the dots, when to line everything up and go for a full alpha strike is going to be really hard. It's going to be
Mhm.
something that I think takes a lot of reps, and a lot of like understanding of your army and what it can do. Because you really can't like for my in a perfect world for me, I deep strike, Indomitor, Terminators, Talon Strike, and they all get 9-inch charges into Traff, and they all always kill things, and that never happens, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I played a game against GSC earlier. I rolled 0 9-inch charges. Like that's just going to happen sometimes, and so you have to kind of adapt and understand that like you can't bank your whole army on that. It's great when it happens, but it's not going to happen
Yeah.
all the time.
No, I mean, again, Grey Knights, like the 9-inch
Yeah,
charge. We live and die by the 9-inch charge.
yeah. You can pray to the big E all day, and sometimes you will
Yeah.
not get the 9.
Yeah.
Um,
And even with a
I will also
6-inch
say,
from Drago, that can still fill you.
yeah, and I don't like if you fail a 6 with the reroll as Drago, you deserve financial compensation. Like you
92%
deserve,
success rate. I've had
yeah.
that 8% pop up quite a few times.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. And you're
Yeah.
like, you're as your opponent, you're like, thank God. Like
Yeah.
now it's just right there.
Yep.
I think more general weakness, it's still a Space Marine army. It's gonna struggle to do like 40 secondary points in a game. Especially in Pariah Nexus where fixed is like not really viable. It's gonna be hard to so you really want to prioritize whenever possible just tabling your opponent.
I think the change to 3-inch deep strike completely destroyed the only options you had to ever run fixed
I think so too.
was armies that have 3-inch deep strikes and little tiny 25 or 32 millimeter bases like Grey Knight Tech Marines could play a game where they did, like behind enemy lines and
Deploy,
yeah,
Homer, or
yeah, and that was
whatever it is now.
that
Yeah.
was the only thing. That was it.
Yeah.
And now that's gone because you
Yep.
can't 3-inch deep strike anymore.
And the changes to the the primary where you don't score turn 5 if you do the secret mission means that your tricks are less and less every game, and you have to be more honest 40k oriented. I also think we ironically can't screen super well, and so I know a lot of armies really enjoy rapid ingressing something, some big brick somewhere, and you have to be really aware that like most of the time if your opponent has a fuck huge brick of like chosen or possessed or beast nagas or whatever, they're gonna rapid it and they're gonna make it a problem for you. So like then that goes back into being like, when do I pull the trigger? Like, do I
Yeah.
pull when it's all the way down, or do I take this loss? Or there's really not much you can do about it. You either take it on the chin or you let them do it and then reactive
Yeah.
play it out.
All right. Well, I'm gonna ask you another couple of questions, but really, I'm just waiting for chat to like chime in. We do these live, so you guys can ask questions, y'all.
Yeah.
So you have how many units did you have? 11, you said. I think it was. We did. I think we
11 or
looked at it.
12. I think it's straight up 11. Let me
Yeah.
check.
I could do.
Um,
I could do all the math right now, but
yeah.
if you've got it handy,
Um,
that's better.
I do. Yeah, I've got it right here.
Oh,
So we've got
Aaron's hurting my heart. Aaron's so mean.
11. Yeah. What
Okay.
did Aaron say?
Aaron said, "How do we make the Corvus work?" I fucking love that model. That is the best looking flyer in the game. I have two of them. I put one on the table one time, and it was such a horrific. And this is in 9th. It did so poorly that I haven't put it on the table even in 10th, even to try,
No.
because
I mean, it suffers from being an aircraft. It's just
yeah,
like they're either absolutely giga busted or they're not worth it. I
yeah.
would say start a crusade, and like if you really love these models, like play it in a non-competitive environment. Like I think us as like competitive oriented players forget that like there are plenty of people at every game store that would love to play just like a very like fluffy game,
Yeah,
and that might be the
absolutely.
place to do it.
Yeah.
But
And it's
in so much as like making it work, that is a Terminator squad,
yeah,
and that is a hard
it
hard
is
sell.
it's also it's hard um, to justify because, like you said, that's a Terminator squad, which has consistent output, has an invul, like it can hide. Can't hide an aircraft.
It can score points on objectives.
It can score points. Yeah. So I was talking to some of the local folks in the Ordo Fanaticus chat, and they're like, well, it basically shoots like a Storm Raven, but it's 80 points cheaper. And I'm like, yeah, but it also it lost the weird loophole we had to have a kill team inside. Like now they straight up told you like what the model like now you have to follow the model. So it's like the one niche it had of dropping like an indom somewhere with like an attached like character, it can't do that now.
No.
So like the transport part of it is completely wasted unless you want to put 10 vets in there or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just it's the mission tactics are cool on it, but again, it's a flyer. It's not like the Drukhari flyer, kind of like you said, like either they're really good or they're completely worthless, right? And then when we saw the Storm Raven Scourge was with specifically Dark Angels with the like, what is it? Anyway, in the start of 10th, or not the start.
Yeah.
Like
they could give them
ago.
Giga buffs and heal them, and they can put Dreadnoughts in theirs. And that's big because you move up the board, drop a Dreadnought, and they're like, okay, here's a Redemptor, and also I'm shooting Hurricane Bolters at you.
Yeah. Raging Horn is asking, I missed what Alex's list was. So good news, there's a link to it in the description to a paste bin, but it is exactly like Mark Hertel's, except he dropped one of the 5-man vet squads for a 5-man infiltrator squad, and he did that only because he didn't have the models.
It's true.
So,
and it was okay.
Yeah.
Guys, it's okay.
That's the fastest update I could have possibly done.
That was very succinct.
Yeah. How do you guys deal with good screening players? I see myself often get screened out very well, and I have to DS way too open for comfort.
Yeah. That happens. Sometimes people just have a million units of trash. The best thing you can do, first thing you can do is deploy your like if you notice your opponent has a million units, maybe leave that second Terminator brick. Like you deploy them, you don't put them up in the air. Maybe you minimize what you put up in the air so you can have more control. Whereas the weaknesses of the Talon Strike and the Indomitor is that they have virtually 24-inch range on their guns. Terminators have 36-inch range on their Cyclone missile launchers, which is long enough to go down and find some screens.
Which you can make 42 if you really need them to.
Or you can give them assault and ignore cover. So if like you're struggling to find an angle, you can either deploy them super far back with sight to sight, or like you said, 42 inches is basically the map. So you have to play slower. You have to play less unga bunga, which is hard. I know it's hard for me too.
Yeah.
But you have to buy real estate. And in some matchups, like I said earlier, against World Leaders and Blood Angels, you don't have to do that. You get to skip that entire part of the game. But in games where it's like Tyranids, GSC, stuff like that, you either need to really pressure with veterans and like mow things down. Mow things down, or you need to use your Terminators really slowly and methodically. If you double oath 2 screens and kill them both, that might be worth it because then you can get more real estate in on the board later on in the game. Yes. I think people covet they have their idea in their head where like we're gonna have one massive turn where we kill everyone and it's awesome and there's like guitar solos. That's not always the case. Sometimes you have to really like use your noodle and understand that like killing 2 units that buy him safety of his half of the board is more important than saving it for like 2 medium-sized units anyway. Because the Terminators and Indoms can probably kill most of the things anyway. Yeah. But it's all game to game. But that's just how I approach it.
So Grey Knight player here. I hate being screened. Obviously, you're taking away my entire army rule basically. So yeah, what you have to do is you need to kill those screens, and then come down the next turn basically. Like, so
Yep.
if your go turn was turn 2, walking in, like maybe it's turn 3, and you need to play kind of cagey, you know. But yeah, you need to kill the thing screening you and then pop in, especially as an elite expensive army.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically also, if they're doing that, rapid ingressing the talent strike isn't a terrible idea. Because if they're shooting with a bunch of screens, most of the time screens just die anyway. If you can rapid ingress the talent strike, give them advance and ignore cover, and then if you can see something with that unit afterwards, that's just one way to minimize that. Because then talent strike can move. I know that's crazy. They have a movement characteristic. I know their like data sheet ability would indicate otherwise, but you are allowed to just move them and shoot them and charge them with the power fist. But yeah, it's not optimal, obviously, but it's a something in the pocket if you need it.
Yeah, for sure. That's funny. Well, I drank 2 of the 3 liters of water I had ready to go because I'm getting over a cold and my throat is still scratchy. I have a big bag of Ricola cough drops here.
Nice. Plug the Ricola.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to say I'm getting tired.
Sure. No, yeah, it's been fun hanging out with everyone.
Yeah, I'm not trying to throw you out, man, but I think I need to call
it's
it
all good.
good.
I got work tomorrow anyway.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for swinging by. Thank you for putting up with me hearing robots on Alex's end of the stream. I don't know what that was about. It's gone now, by the way. It was like for 40 seconds and now it's gone. But Alex, congratulations, man. You're a local player, so I'll run into you eventually. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for hearing me babble through a tournament. It's a lot of fun. If you ever see me live, come say hi. I am super excited to talk to everyone. Message me on Discord if you ever want. I'm super happy to talk any amount of 40K.
Yeah, so about that, down below there's a link to the Grey Knight Discord and the Deathwatch one. Alex is active in the Deathwatch one. I pinged him actually in the media channel when I pinged the whole channel about this interview. I also pinged him in there, so if you want to speak with him, easy peasy. Again, Alex, congratulations. And let me know if you ever change up your list or try just something wildly different, like 3 Corvuses or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sitting on the bleeding edge of the meta, and it's the Corvus Blackstar.
Yeah. All right. Everybody, Alex, do you have anything that you want to plug?
Shout out to John and Anya. He runs great tournaments. He has an Etsy site, Straight Silver Gaming. It is great, high quality terrain. If you are looking at getting a terrain set that is artfully done, there's basically a table for each army in the game.
Oh wow.
That would be something that's awesome. Help support local business. And if you're looking for really kind of local high level 40K, Lucas Stroller, Nick Olson Johnson, and Tyler Bortel have a podcast too. They're called Take All Comers. Just if you want to support more local podcasts. There's 8 hours in a day, sometimes we run out of content. There's something there too. That's about everything though.
Lucas Stroller, is Nick on Team USA as well, or is it just, okay. Yeah, so these guys are
they're all
they're very, very, very good players. Way better than I am. So if you want to listen to a podcast,
we attain.
Yeah. All right. I'll catch you all later, and don't forget